So my first question is, what were you doing before you were in triathlon?
Yeah, so I actually started triathlon in 1999, and before that, I did show jumping. So I was a Grand Prix level show jumper. Totally didn't swim, bike. Did have some running background. I did run in school, did some track and field, but I was a sprinter. I was not a long distance person at all. Got into a little bit of fitness running and fitness because my sister was involved in fitness, and she encouraged me to do some 5 and 10Ks, and some got kind of into running and that sort of thing, and got involved in triathlon. I really wanted to get involved in triathlon because of the lifestyle and the health, and I just really like the people. And so prior to triathlon, I was doing show jumping. So that's, the stadium jumping with the horses where it's based on time and faults. And, I think that the most running you did was basically from ring to try and get there in time with your horse. And the biking I did was, as a kid, the biking I did is I actually rode my bike I could get from town out to the farm faster on my bike than catching the bus. And so I had one of those big old bikes with the basket on the front that if you pedaled backwards, it would stop. And I would put all my horse brushes and crap in my basket, and I would zoom out to the farm, and it was like 10 miles. So that was like where the biking started, I guess, but it was for means of transport more than anything. So
then how did you discover triathlon?
Yeah, so I actually had a friend. So I was, like I said, I was getting more and more involved in fitness. I wanted more health in my life, more of a healthy lifestyle, and I was going to this gym all the time. And there happened to be some triathletes there that worked there, and I got to be friends with one of the guys that worked in the gym, and he said, I see you on the spin bike all the time, and it looks like you have some running background, if you swim at all. And I said, no, not really. And basically encouraged me to, maybe you would like to try a triathlon. There's this university, I'm from Calgary, so University of Calgary Triathlon Club, and you should come to one of the practices and give it a try, and, maybe try a little sprint triathlon, that kind of thing. And so from 1999 to 2003, I really did it on a very, low beginner. I was so busy with the horses. I still had a full-time stable. I had, 30 horses and riders. We were, I was coaching full-time, horse trainer full-time. I didn't have a lot of time for triathlon, so I would, do something at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and then I would be at the stable all day, and sometimes maybe at 11 o'clock at night I might get like a 20-minute jog in or something. So for the first number of years, it was on a really, really health and recreational level for me, but I really loved it. And I found I loved it more and more, and loved the people more and more. And I started doing more, Olympic distance triathlons, and found I had a little bit of talent in it, and did well locally. And there's some big half Ironmans in Alberta that they're big for there, and we would go every year to, the big goal is to go to the Great White North Triathlon. And I always wanted to go there and win the Moose one day, which is like the big trophy there. And I finally won the Moose one day. But I'm even, there's a big triathlon community in Calgary, and the big thing every year was to go to Ironman Canada and watch. And I remember specifically standing on the side of the road watching the race. I remember watching Lori Bowden at the time. She was a total hero of mine, and she was so fast. She won a lot of races, won Hawaii. And I thought, this is so far. It's so nuts. Like, who would go this far? I couldn't imagine swimming that far. I could kind of imagine riding my bike that far, but I definitely couldn't imagine running a marathon off the bike. And I just remember being in complete awe and thinking there is no way I could ever do this. I just thought it was so far. And then literally, by end of 2003 was my first Ironman. I somehow got roped, as it goes, roped into it. And and then it was kind of history from there. So,
but what made you want to be a pro? I mean, that's a big jump.
Yeah, it was a big jump. So I guess I skipped a lot of steps, and it's hard to summarize it all when you think back on things. But if you know me, I'm kind of if we're going to do this, let's do it well kind of person. And so when I looked at it and I said, if I'm going to do Ironman, then I want to compete with the best, and I'm going to try, put myself in the professional race and see how I stack up. I was just, I don't know, I guess ignorance is bliss. I just thought I'm gonna do this, I wasn't about, respect or not, I'm not sure what it was, ignorance or whatever. You know, most people, they race amateur for a long time, build up the results, and you know, get a good resume and get a feel for the races and experience, and then turn professional. And being the personality type that I am, you know, I had good enough results in the half Ironman to qualify for a professional card. And so I took it, and I knew I wanted to compete at that level. And so rather than, you know, going and, okay, I'll win my age group for a number of races, and then that will give me the leg up to or the confidence to know that I should be in the pro field. I was like, screw it. I am just going to throw myself in the fire, and I'm going to sink or swim.
So your first Ironman, Ironman, was as a pro.
Was as a pro. I just went for it. I was like, I want to race these girls. And I figured I might as well know what I'm racing. Right. You know, I was like, there's no sense. I figured, and I'm, you know, everyone has a different, for me personally, at that time, I figured there was no sense in just seeing how I stacked up against this field when I knew I wanted to race that field. So I was like, I'm gonna go in there and see how I stack up. If I'm dead last, I'm dead last. You know, and and then I'll know where I'm at, and I got to work my way up from there. And you know, so I did 2003. I did Ironman Canada as my first Ironman. The end of August. At the time, it was in Penticton. That's a long time ago. It was a great race there at that time. A lot of history there, and I can't even actually remember how I did. It wasn't great. It was like 13th or 12th or something like that. And then in February of 2004, I did Ironman Malaysia, and I won that race. And so it was, you know, I basically, I was kind of a sinker. I've always been a kind of a sink or swim. My personality is like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to go for it and just see. So yeah, that was the steps.
So what was your most memorable race as a pro?
So most memorable race was Ironman France. One year, there was a woman there named Sophie Delamare, who was like a big French woman. She did really well racing for a long time back in the day. And there was a few days before the race, I was there with some people, and they said, man, wouldn't it be great to see a women's race? Because the women's racing back then was typically very spread out. You know, you'd see someone 20 minutes up the road, then 10 minutes, 5 minutes. It's not like that anymore, but it used to be quite spread out. And they said, wouldn't it be great to see a women's like head-to-head race, like two women just like head-to-head battling? I was like, oh yeah, that'd be great. This is the days before. And I didn't think that was going to be me the next day. So it was, you know, it was pretty amazing because I actually didn't know. I you know, went through the swim, went through the ride. Cycling was my strength. I was typically, you know, a little ways back out of the water, or a long ways back out of the water. And I would, you know, ride my way up and towards the front of the race. And I hopped into transition 2, and I actually didn't know what place I was in. I figured I was in second or third, and I was running through transition. And Sophie Delamare, she was on the outside of the transition tent. I was on the inside. I had no idea. She was in first and I was in second. And we left the transition together, shoulder for shoulder.
Wow.
And I thought, oh God, here we go. And I raced shoulder to shoulder with her for the next, you know, for pretty much the whole marathon. And it was really great because she was a French woman on French soil, and it was her final Ironman race. And so the crowds were going crazy, cheering for her, giving her splits. Her coach was out there. Everyone was really wanting this French woman to win her last pro race on French soil. And there I was battling it out with her.
Wow.
And so that was really cool and really special. And at the end of the day, she made a little 90-second gap, and I never got that gap back. And I finished I was like 90 seconds or 2 minutes behind her for second. But it was, you know, it was a battle, and it was definitely to this day my most memorable race that I'll always look back and think. And it's the fastest marathon I ever ran. I mean, I typically ran somewhere between 3:30 and 3:35, somewhere there. And this race, because it says something for competition, I ran 3:13 that day. I never ran that fast again.
That's
I mean,
amazing.
I had no idea I could run that fast. Like, my training didn't indicate that. And I never ran that fast again.
Yeah.
But that day, because it was just about focused on her and racing her and just racing my heart out. I mean, that was, that was just really, really cool experience to have that as a professional.
So then, do you have any advice you want to give somebody who's maybe thinking about becoming a pro or is working to becoming one, or maybe a first-year pro?
Yeah. I think, now people, they want to be professional because they want to live the life, and they don't fully commit to what that means. And what that means is that I have some close friends that we trained all the time. It is a lot of hard work for a long time. Okay. I know I got the luxury of going from, like, I tell this fast track story, but then, there was years and years of just hard work, Groundhog Day, and just to, just keep working hard every single day. And a lot of people want to say I'm pro and they want to be in the pro race, but when it comes to, you've got to train 30 hours a week now. Yeah. You're going to be broke a lot of the time. You're going to have to say no to most social functions. You're going to have to really be strict with your diet. You're going to have to make sure you're very strict with your sleep. You're going to have to do this day in and day out for a long time. You're going to have to train when you're really tired. You might have to train a race when you're sick, when you're injured. Like, these types of things might come up. And now it's no longer about just doing, it is still about enjoying it and doing it for fun, but it's also now about, making money. You gotta race to make money. You've got to, make sure that you're doing a good job for your sponsors. You've got to, there's a lot more commitments to it than just living the life.
Yeah.
And I think if you're looking at that, first, you've got to really love doing it. You got to just purely love swim, bike, and run, and the competition of it and the continued improvement. And then you've got to love it so much that when it's really, really hard, you're really tired and you don't want to train, and you got to keep waking up and do it every week, week after week after week. And, the pay's not that much, you've got to love it so much that you're great with just that. You're great with swim, bike, run, race your heart out, and love that lifestyle and the commitments that go with it. Because the biggest thing I see between the ones that are consistently doing well now are the ones that understand that, and they race that, and they race their hearts out, and they're really committed to being a total professional. And the ones that are sort of sitting on the fringe of that, they don't, it gets a little hard, they don't want to, they're too tired, they're more worried about being overtrained than doing the work. They don't want to be broke. They want to, as soon as it gets hard, they want it out. And it's like, it's gonna be hard. Yeah. So you're either in or you're not, and so I think if you really, really love it and you really understand that, then you should really go for it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.